Hello, it's Noir Vortex here. So it's been a kind of insane, crazy, and depressing 2 days, for obvious reasons, in Manchester. Um, but I figured instead of going into some long, drawn-out analysis of what's going on, I'd just, which I could do, but everything's kind of too current at the minute to really write anything that's done of any informative angle, I suppose. So instead of that, I'm going to read out a piece I wrote yesterday after visiting the vigil at Albert Square, in memory of the victims and all the damage that's been done basically by this horrific attack. So basically what happened is, still remember hearing about the attack because it happened, and it was all coming really fast on social media. I was in my flat, so I wasn't really out anywhere, and I live in Whalley Range as well, funnily enough. If you know what's going on right now, it's kind of really weird and close to home, the whole thing. A few people I know were very close, were actually there. Well, we weren't there, but were literally down the road from where it happened, and they could hear the bombs going off, could hear the police, could hear sirens, helicopters, and I was talking to them while it was happening, so it's all been very, very close to home and just on the doorstep, so it's been really crazy 2 days. So yeah, but I went to the vigil yesterday and it was great, and this is just my account of that. So I've set up a website very quickly every day to kind of collate information together. It's called notafraid.uk. I did it as a kind of an emergency, like, oh shit, what can I do? Because what I noticed on Facebook is that there were bits of little false information that were getting out there, and also as well, obviously, because the nature of what Twitter is and Facebook and stuff, it's quite hard to just have a very quick access. This is what you need to know here, this is what you need to do there. So I kind of thought I'd try, and what I could do in my flat is collate everything together and very easy to navigate things as soon as possible. So I basically stayed in the whole day, collating information together from the police, collating information from news sources which were reputable, and doing that. And then at the end of yesterday, I decided to write this piece, which is about the vigil. So I'll just proceed with reading that. I'll give you links to the other stuff below. Hopefully try and do more writing on the site, and then get other people's writing in as well, hopefully eventually. Okay, so the most Mancunian Vigil. I arrive having taken a quick bus from my flat in Whalley Range onto Albert Square, as crowds gather around me, awaiting the vigil of the fallen victims of this terrible atrocity. After 4 minutes of standing around and waiting to see what was going on, I hear voices, chanting what sounds like Arabic. The crowd turns round. The tension in the air for a few seconds hangs before erupting into applause, as a group of Sikhs, some old and wise and some young, angry for the truth and visibly upset by the actions, walk down the street, gripping "I love Manchester" placards. The crowd pays them respects, and I already get that Manchester feeling that, hey man, everything's going to be alright, mate. I wait around some time and I listen into a few bits of fragmented conversations, which proceed as you would expect. One girl telling her friends about how she cried on the bus. A small child later to the left of me asks her mum, why do some people have flowers? Her mum, unable to tell her the truth, trying to distract her from the reality of what has just taken place, spins a white lie to soften the blow that no child should have to know. Further on a few minutes, I witnessed many young couples arm in arm, embracing each other and looking so distant. You could see in their eyes how they were still processing this horror. It was an atmosphere of unity and sadness, all in one. The solemn tones of Edgar Delgar's Nimrod then breaks the ambient noise of the crowd. Solemn and eternal strings rising over the square as the vigil begins. It is a truly bittersweet moment of communal grief. I think we all felt that. It was something I don't think I've ever experienced much in my life. The group emerging from the town hall representing Manchester at its core. Strong, diverse and independent of mind. Everything from political mavericks like Jeremy Corbyn to punk poet Tony Walsh and priests of all religions. It was a truly triumphant fingers up to those who would seek to divide us, and I think it really started hitting home to a lot of us then what had occurred. All the horror, the stolen youth, Silence for a few minutes. For me, it felt like a very painful 4 minutes of contemplation. A group of golden balloons released in memory of the fallen drift into the sky. The first speaker begins. I will summarise to keep this quick. The first speaker talks deeply in honesty about our diversity and unity and how we are a successful world city, and how love is stronger than hate. All Manchester truisms, of course, and the crowd applauds his words of aplomb. These people whose lives have now changed, they are Manchester too, as he speaks of those left injured and maimed. Finally, he summarises by saying we must direct our anger towards helping one another at this time, an eloquent articulation of how we must move forwards. Next up was the Greater Manchester Chief Superintendent, who gets a round of enthusiastic applause. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, he says. His thoughts are with the families, thanking the services for their great work. He again stresses the importance of diversity in the city and how we must all live in harmony with each other. The crowd applauds. Next up, and somewhat surprisingly for me, at least, was Tony Walsh, a Manchester-based poet I once had the honour of speaking to at an open mic he was performing at Farrago Open Mic Poetry in London when I lived there. I did a few bits and bobs on the poetry scene in London for a while and remember conversing with a seasoned working class punk poet and instantly liking his work. We had a quick chat. Back then he told me to keep on going with it and gave me some really good advice about just keeping on writing. And now he stood before a crowd of devastated people and delivered poetry in the truest sense of the word. Oh my god, it was good. I don't want to go over the top, but at times it was like some straight talking Manchester Jesus who'd come down to remind us of how we weathered the storm before and how we'll make it through again. A mention of Emmeline Pankhurst and everyone instantaneously applauds and riotous noise, and so many incredible moments that I can only recommend you watch his performance of This Is the Place. A moment of beauty, grace and a reminder of our strength as a community. Okay, the Manchester Jesus comment was a bit over the top, I admit, but it brought us all together, so I'm keeping it in. Lastly, a Christian minister completes the ceremony with a lighting of a candle whilst the Dirge for Strings plays in the background. A holy moment for this atheist here. He speaks of how we must rebuild the city and dream. This man could not be more right. The ceremony ends and then all of a sudden we all start shouting in one united chorus, Manchester! Manchester, and applause again. A few young men at the back put up a inappropriate No Surrender Union Jack flag as the crowd disperse, but they get no more than a few tots and people moaning piss off EDL than anything resembling applause, whilst the banner reading Love for All and Hatred for None by a group of young Muslims gets another round of applause from the dispersing crowd. I walk to my bus. Passing through the crowd, I see a rabbi or an Orthodox Jew through the crowd. He's an old man, his eyes look sad. I nod at him, then he nods at me and mumbles something in Hebrew or Yiddish. I walk past a black guy who points at his heart on the walk to the bus and says, "This is Manchester." I get on the bus. A Muslim man is reciting Arabic silently. Across from him, a mother is with a young child. The man smiles softly at the child and gets off the bus. That is Manchester. Don't be afraid and don't let fear rule your heart. All of this is true and based on direct observation from being the vigil and taking notes just hours ago.